Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Laura Prada from our Telesur studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with our news, taking a look to our headlines. Venezuela suspends expulsion of the European Union ambassador and ratifies cooperation and political dialogue with the group. Meanwhile, the Bolivarian government requests a criminal investigation into the theft of Venezuelan gold by opposition sectors. Unexplained death of 275 elephants has raised concerns of governmental authorities in Botswana. Russia improves political system and consolidates social guarantees after constitutional vote. We begin with our news. You stay with us. In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro welcomed the agreement reached between the government and the European Union to strengthen mechanism for bilateral dialogue.
And to proceed to a new stage of dialogue between Josep Borrell and Jorge Arreaza. And that is what has been done. I think it is the best, the most intelligent, the appropriate thing to do, and also what corresponds to what we are looking for, that the world hears the truth of Venezuela, that the European Union enters into another understanding, that there be a profound historic rectification of the role that the European Union has played in its relationship with Venezuela. That's why I salute you. The joint communique signed by Mr. Josep Borrell and Mr. Jorge Arreaza on behalf of the High Representative of the European Union and the Foreign Minister of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. And I ask for the full support of Venezuelan public opinion for this necessary diplomatic agreement and the applause for our people for these steps of peaceful diplomacy.
Meanwhile, Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez announced this Thursday that President Nicolás Maduro has called for an immediate investigation against the international criminal organization led by opposition lawmaker Juan Guaidó that has explained seeks to deprive the country of its international gold reserves.
Today, President Nicolás Maduro, in his capacity as head of state, as head of government, has required the organs of justice in Venezuela that an immediate investigation be conducted with a view to determine the criminal responsibilities of those who are participating in this brazen thief of Venezuelan gold piracy, in protection of all our people, an immediate inquiry, immediate opening in addition to the international actions that the Attorney General of the Republic is already preparing to add in this situation. Gold belongs to Venezuelans, not to this gang of crooks who intend to pay political favors with the resources and our gold to the United Kingdom.
Furthermore, the Vice President Delcy Rodriguez revealed a conversation of the supposed representative of Juan Guaidó to United Kingdom, Vanessa Neumann, where she negotiates the territory of the Essequibo region in exchange for political support.
We are trying to grow the coalition of support to Juan, and the number one issue that the Foreign Commonwealth Office has identified us. They will not support us as long as we follow the official line that we want to grab the Essequibo Guyana. The Guyana issue, I told Maria Teresa Velandria not to advise anyone to comment on Guyana that was before Juan came to power. And my first meeting was also with the High Commissioner of Guyana, who came and told me that he wants to know what the position of Juan Guaidó is regarding Guyana.
Meanwhile, on an exclusive interview for Telesur, Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza stressed that the Venezuelan government has agreed with the European Union to strengthen mechanisms for bilateral dialogue in order to avoid an impasse in diplomatic relations.
The Bolivarian Revolution principles were maintained. There is a commitment to upgrade talks at the highest level between the European Union Permanent Representative and myself, in order to maintain talks in real time so misinformation does not occur, as well as to make the vision of the Venezuelan government clear. In this way, We can correct any kind of differences or disputes regarding bilateral relations and reinforce the cooperation between Venezuela and the European Union, which is strategic cooperation.
And U.S. prosecutors late on Wednesday filed a lawsuit to seize the gasoline aboard 4 tankers that Iran is sent to Venezuela, the latest attempt by the Trump administration to increase economic pressure on the two foes. The lawsuit was followed on Thursday by a warrant issued by United States District Judge James Bosberg for the seizure of the more than 1.1 million barrels of gasoline in the 4 tankers. Legal sources say the gasoline could likely only be seized by U.S. authorities if the tankers entered U.S. territorial waters. Gasoline shortages in Venezuela, like Iran and OPEC member, have grown acute due to U.S. sanctions, and the country has undergone an economic collapse. Still, President Nicolás Maduro has held on, and the failure to unseat him has frustrated U.S. President Donald Trump. And those tankers arrived safely to Venezuela. We keep talking about the United States in other order of topics. The number of confirmed coronavirus cases per day in the United States climbed to an all-time high of more than 50,000 on Thursday, with the infection curve rising in 40 of the 50 states in a reversal that has largely spared only the Northeast. An alarming 36 states are seeing an increase in the percentage of the tests coming back positive for the virus. United States recorded 50,700 new confirmed cases, according to a tally kept by Johns Hopkins University. That's representing a doubling of the daily total over the past months, and is higher even than what the country witnessed during the mass lethal phase of the crisis in April and May, when the New York metropolitan area was easily the worst hot spot in the United States. And in a defeat for President Donald Trump's anti-immigration policies, a United States federal judge has overturned Trump administration's rule requiring migrants to first claim asylum in another country before seeking entry to the United States. The Trump rule rushed into place in 2019 and was aimed at blocking migrants from the Central American countries of El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala from claiming asylum at the U.S.-Mexico border. The federal judge ruling in Washington, D.C. found the Trump administration ban on asylum seekers at the border violated U.S. immigration law and administrative procedures that require public notice of major rules changes. The U.S. Immigration and Nationality Act allows anyone who has made it to U.S. soil to apply for asylum. Time for a first break. Remember, follow us on Twitter at Telesur English and on my account at Laura P. Telesur. We're back with our news. Botswana investigates the growing number of unexplained deaths of 275 elephants, up from the 154 2 weeks ago. The landlocked country has the world's largest elephant population, estimated at 130,000. The Delta alone is home to an estimated 15,000 elephants. The animals were first spotted months ago in the Okavango Panhandle region, and the authorities say they have since been trying to discover the cause. Samples have been collected and sent to South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Canada for testing. The latest discoveries were flagged by a wildlife conservation charity called Elephants Without Borders, whose confidential report referring to 356 dead elephants was leaked to the media this Wednesday.
At this stage, it's difficult to really tell what could be the cause of the mortality. We have eliminated from the local labs the possibility of anthrax being the cause of this mortality, but there is still a lot of infectious diseases and potentially other toxins that are being still investigated by the laboratory samples that have been collected.
And as a second wave of locusts threatens to devour East Africa crops, scientists in a Nairobi, Kenya lab are experimenting with novel ways to kill them. Swarms are the worst for 3 generations, encouraged by unseasonably wet weather and dispersed by a record number of cyclones. The destructive pests could cost East Africa and Yemen $8.5 billion this year, the World Bank has said. Locusts are usually controlled by spraying them with pesticides before they can fly, but the chemicals can damage other insects and the environment. So, scientists at the International Center of Insect Physiology and Ecology are experimenting with biopesticides and the use of locusts as human and animal food as they look for environmentally friendly extermination methods like eat them, poison them, even use a scent to drive them to cannibalism.
If you go to some of those remote areas where the locust swarms are actually prevailing, a lot of people are eating them. So we think with this background, we think it's something to promote so that a lot more people should engage in this practice rather than shying away, thinking that it is a primitive man's food.
And the director of the World Health Organization for Africa appealed to the solidarity of the international community to facilitate the distribution of medicines to treat COVID-19. The appeal comes amidst alleged international reports linking the U.S. to the mass purchase of medicines considered scientifically effective in the treatment of COVID-19. Machirisa Moeti called to rescue the principles of equity in the market in order to guarantee the free and fair access of the global population to medical treatments and to avoid a monopoly over drugs intended to contain the coronavirus.
Certainly, we have a distorted global market that really speaks about the need for some principles of equity and global solidarity if we want to solve the collective problem. Because as long as the virus is spreading in no continent or country, the rest are also at risk.
And several months after the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic, the UN Security Council adopted a resolution on the issue, although divisions remain. The resolution, unanimously approved, reflects the call of the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres on March 23rd for a global ceasefire to concentrate all efforts on the fight against COVID-19, which has already killed more than 500,000 people. The Council also called on all parties engaged in armed conflicts to immediately commit to a humanitarian ceasefire at least 90 days to allow for the safe, continuous and unimpeded delivery of vital aid, but the test clarified that a ceasefire would not apply to ongoing military operations against extremist groups and other terrorist organizations as designated by the Council. Time for another break. You stay tuned with us. We'll be right back with some more news. We're back with our news. In Russia, President Vladimir Putin has thanked the country's citizens for approving constitutional amendments after the ballots that took place this week.
I want to send to the citizens of Russia words of gratitude. I want to say thank you very much for your support and trust. I have repeatedly spoken about the need to adopt amendments to the constitution of the country. Here we have both the improvement of the political system and the consolidation of social guarantees. Here is the strengthening of sovereignty, territorial integrity.
Meanwhile, Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said the United States needs to refrain from interfering in the domestic affairs of other countries. This because Washington is especially concerned with a provision in the amendments that would potentially allow President Putin to remain in power until 2036. The Russian diplomat pointed out that the United States needs to sort out its domestic issues. It's high time for them all to brace themselves and overcome the deepest domestic divisions, noted Zakharova.
First, we received a note from the embassy of the United States. This note regarded the annual report of the Department of State of the United States on the counter-terrorist efforts, and we thank them for this kind reminder, because we have lost practical interest in them year in, year out. We see the same politicized phrasings and this includes unfounded reproaches to us in our efforts in anti-terrorist efforts, because they say that our counter-terrorist measures are aimed not at fighting terrorism, but at stifling different freedoms and violating human rights in our government. Well, who's talking?
Now we talk about Latin America. In Peru, healthcare workers have to take care of patients with COVID-19 at the Sabogal Hospital in Lima as the country surpasses 10,000 deaths from the coronavirus. The number of deaths rose to 10,045, an increase of 185 in the last 24 hours, while the number of people infected rose to 292,004, informed the health ministry. Peru is Latin America's second worst hit country after Brazil, where, according to official figures, more than 60,000 people have died from the disease. Peru's victims include 71 health workers and 153 police officers, according to official information data provided by the health authorities. Meanwhile, this Thursday, the de facto government of Bolivia announced that the Minister of the Presidency, Yerko Núñez, tested positive for COVID-19 after being subjected to a diagnostic test as he had presented symptoms of the viral outbreak. The Ministry of Health's A.D. Roca indicated that Núñez is in a stable condition and remains isolated as a preventative method to avoid possible infections. Likewise, Minister Roca pointed out that the infection could have been caused by contact with a person carrying the virus during his travel to different regions of the country, accompanied by other cabinet members. Meanwhile, Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador denounced this Thursday the act of corruption after the order to release José Ángel Casarrubias Salgado, known as El Mochomo, alleged responsible for the disappearance of the 43 Ayotzinapa students.
An investigation was initiated and the search for the reason why he had been released. We were presented with a report holding evidence on how there is a corruption in the court that ordered his release. That is to say that there was money involved. Then it is going to be a punishment to those responsible.
And with the beginning of the dry season in Brazil, environmental experts and Brazilian forest authorities have warned that the Amazon rainforest is once again threatened by wildfires. The number of wildfires in the Brazilian Amazon increased by 19.5% in June in comparison to last year, according to data published by government agencies. More than 2,000 fires occurred, representing the worst figure for that month in 13 years. These figures and the excessive practice of deforestation and providing a worse scenario than that of 2019, when millions of hectares of tropical rainforest and animal and plant species were wiped out by fires. And in the Caribbean, presidential candidates have wound up their campaigns in the Dominican Republic ahead of this Sunday's July 5th general elections. Political parties have until midnight this Thursday to close their campaigning activities in preparation for vote to be held on July 5th, when the president and deputies to the country's Congress will be elected. After the lifting of the curfew announced by the national government in response to the coronavirus pandemic, the presidential candidates took to the streets to secure the necessary votes. To date, the Caribbean country has registered more than 34,000 coronavirus cases and over 700 deaths. We continue in the Caribbean, where this Thursday CARICOM announced over 2,600 patients have recovered from COVID-19 in its member states. In the past week, Caribbean community nations have increased their recovery figures by more than 1,000, and Barbados has joined a group of countries with no current active COVID-19 cases, despite the total of over 8,300 confirmed infections among CARICOM member states. There has been an effective response to the pandemic. Haiti now has the highest number of active cases at 4,900. The advance in the fight against the pandemic, CARICOM member states thanked the African Union for giving it access to the African Medical Supply Platform, which facilitates the purchase of certified medical equipment such as diagnostic kits, personal protection equipment, and clinical management devices with increased cost effectiveness and transparency. And St. Lucia has launched the I Am CARICOM communication campaigns, an initiative aimed at increasing visibility and understanding of CARICOM among citizens of the community. The initiative was launched by the Regional Integration Unit in the Office of the St. Lucian Prime Minister in collaboration with the Caribbean Community Secretariat. It seeks to engage and assist citizens of the community to take ownership and participate fully in the regional integration development agenda through CARICOM institutions, its governance structure, policies, and plans. Like this, we come to the end of this news brief. Of course, you can find this and much more other information on our website, thrusterenglish.net, where you can read about articles, watch special interviews, and find so much more other information that we produce especially for you. And of course, you can update yourself about the latest figures to COVID-19 throughout the world. The invitation has been made. You continue with us with Telesur, always together, connecting our global thoughts. Until next time, thank you for watching.